Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride is Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How you doing tonight, guys?
Uh, Great night, great night.
Great night. All righty, all right, all right. So, regular season's over. We got a couple things that we have on the lineup. We're going to go through the Week 16 games. We're going to look at the final standings for each team. We'll look at the playoff bracket and also talk a little bit about the forum page that's up as far as coaches voting for player of the year, rookie of the year, coach of the year, MVP. We're gonna run through all of that. We'll have Mitch take a stab at that and run through that in the middle segment. Also, again, if you guys haven't voted yet, you need to go out there and vote. I think what'd you say, Mitch? There was 10 or 11 coaches that have responded, and we had to get the rest of them in. Something that we said.
As of Tuesday, 8 o'clock Eastern, probably about 11. So, still have time, but please go out and vote early so we can get tallied and we'll share on next week's PNFL news.
All right. So,
But you didn't say early and often, though.
You only get one vote.
Only get one vote. So,
we're not in Chicago.
There you go. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into this. We got a lot that we're going to try to pack in this show and hopefully not go over our normal time limit, which we usually go over. Anyway, so first game that we have on the list for this week, we have Las Vegas hosting Indianapolis. And in the finale, Las Vegas took this game 13-10, which pretty much put a fork in Indy's chance of the playoffs. We're going to start this one off with Dean.
Some games you see one team scoring 500 or more yards of total offense. In this game, there wasn't even 500 yards between the two teams, and there was less than 25 points scored with this 13-10 score. I mean, either the offenses just were not very effective or the defenses were very good. There were no turnovers either. It's not like it was a game that had a lot of turnovers. It just was a pretty tough game in which neither team scored a whole lot, and the Raiders ended up winning at home by a field goal. And, it was key that it did end any chance that the Colts were going to go to the playoffs.
Yep. Mitch.
Well, it was an offensive shootout when the fullback, the position that, half the teams don't even carry, but the fullback wins player of the game. And this game, again, granted, Las Vegas won last week. They won this week, so we'll tip the cap because, win's a win no matter how it goes. But this, again, you look, 40 pass attempts to generate 158 yards of passing. 13 yards being the longest completion. So you're not going to score a lot of points moving the ball at that slow of a pace. But hey, they got the win, and I'm sure they'll take it and they'll move on. And Andy, you blew it the last 2 weeks, man. You blew it. You had the playoffs in your hands, and you blew it. So I don't know what else to say about that.
All right. Next game, we have Atlanta hosting the last game of the season. They were hosting New England. New England had a chance to make the playoffs, and Atlanta closed that door on them to shut them out from the postseason with a score of 38-35. Mitch.
All right, so this game here, the exact opposite of this first game. But the quarterbacks, they had fewer pass attempts. They had less than 40 pass attempts each, but yet both quarterbacks threw for over 340 yards. So that's what you want to see right there, ladies and gentlemen. Both quarterbacks had 3 touchdowns. So basically, it was a 7-on-7 drill, Elite 11 quarterback competition out there between Gerard Evans and Hendon Hooker. But as I said, Atlanta did win this game, and I said they were going to blow them out. They didn't quite blow them out, but they definitely won. And just kept that slide for New England all the way through the end of the season.
All right, Coach, what'd you see in your team this week?
Well, I saw two things. I saw the future and I saw the past, and we're talking about offense and defense. And did you happen to notice who was on the front of the PNFL website this week? We're going to hope that will be part of the future as well. The offense played well. Hendon Hooker was completing 81% of his passes and was pretty efficient and pretty effective with the game plan that I put together. The defense, well, the defense definitely needs some work in the coming off seasons with getting some better players at some positions and revamping the game plan and profile. It's clear that the defense didn't get the job done and nearly lost the game for us. The offense, answered the call when New England cut the game close and the offense needed to score again to stay ahead. The offense did that. So, I think the offense looked very good in this game. The defense definitely gave up some big plays to New England. Now I'll credit New England too, because I think the Patriots kind of went for a kind of big play offense, and they went for a lot of kind of aggressive medium pass plays, and some of them they hit, some of them they didn't hit, but they hit enough to score a lot. And what's interesting is I believe there was only a single punt in this entire game, and there was just the one turnover. There was a fumble committed by my team. So basically, every single drive resulted in a score of some kind of touchdown or field goal, except for one for each team. So, yeah, neither team played very well on defense, and it's fitting that our two teams are probably, over the season, had the worst two pass defenses of the 18 teams in the league. So both teams definitely need to step it up next season on the defense to be competitive.
All right. Jacksonville hosting Minnesota. And Jacksonville, I think we all called Minnesota on this one, as they had a 10.5 point spread, and Jacksonville shocked everybody by taking this one in the upset 24-7. We're going to start this one off again with Mitch.
Well, Minnesota, I mean, I think everyone who watched that game, realized they were going to lose when they started just taking a knee in the first quarter, trying to keep their players healthy and not put too much on film for the playoffs. So, I guess we should have thought about that when we were making our predictions. But give it to Jacksonville. They still had to complete passes and score points, and they did. 24 points might be one of their highest point totals of the season. So I guess a good way for old Captain Kirk to go out.
All right. Dean.
Well, you had to know that Minnesota was doomed when I put the lead pipe curse on them last week.
Yeah, true.
They just instantly had no chance of winning. It was a curse. And they, and for those of you that are superstitious, which I'm not, but some people are, they completed 13 first downs. You get the combination of 13 first downs, and they only had 98 yards rushing and 185 yards passing. Those numbers don't get it done. And you also have carry the burden of my lead pipe curse. How do you expect Minnesota to win? And besides, they were in the playoffs where they won or lost anyway. So, but for Jacksonville, it's a good win, and Captain Kirk gets his last win before he retires.
Mm-hmm.
It remains to be seen who is going to replace him, and whether that will be someone that takes control of that position, or we're going to see a kind of quarterback carousel going on in Jacksonville, as we've seen in other teams when someone retires. So we'll see.
Okay. Sorry. Next one up, we have New York the New York Jets taking on Kansas City. Thought that was going to be a much closer game, but New York just happened to edge out Kansas City and hold them to a single score, 19-7. Dean.
These player of the game awards are like participation trophies. This running back who no one has heard of for the Jets scores one touchdown run and he gets player of the game. What are we doing? Are we giving out participation trophies now? But as far as the game, yeah, the Jets defense was the key here. The Jets defense was tough. They hold the Chiefs to just a single touchdown, under 100 yards, and 250 passing. And I notice Mason Rudolph was a starter. That's interesting. Jones, well, I wouldn't say he was impressive, but he completed 63% for 217 yards. He was adequate. The Jets had 171 yards of rushing against the Kansas City defense. That helped them win the game as well. One fumble that was lost by each team, so not a huge consequence on the turnovers here. But I think the bottom line in this game was that the Jets defense was tough. Made the difference.
All right. Mitch, what happened, Coach?
Well, once Chicago lost to New York in the previous week, they pretty much took any meaning out of this game since I was going to be the number 2 seed and division winner regardless. So as you said, Mason Rudolph, he got a start and pretty much flipped the roster around a little bit. Let some guys who hadn't been on the field as much get some playing time and experience going into the playoffs. And so I feel good that we're going into the playoffs now fully healthy. Was able to allow some folks to get rid of some of their knocks and bruises, and look forward to the tournament here coming up.
All righty. Next game, we have LA taking on Pittsburgh, and a game that LA definitely needed. And they ended up taking this game 30-21. Mitch.
Yeah, this is a big, huge win for Los Angeles. We had talked about how their final 4 games, all they had to do was win the 2 against Los Angeles, and they would likely get in. Well, that's exactly what they did. They went 2-2, but the 2 they won, against Pittsburgh. So the 2 they won were against Pittsburgh, and they are going to the playoffs. 7-9, but I'm sure Steve at this point doesn't care because it all starts back at 0-0 now if you're in the tournament. So good win for Los Angeles. I know it seemed like for those who watched the game, especially in the first half, that the Los Angeles pass rush was just eating up the Pittsburgh passing game, but. Anyhow, it'd be a little closer than what it felt like at times in the game. I'll just say that. So a good win for Los Angeles.
All right.
Yeah, this 2 is thrown by Deshaun Watson. We're proud of it, and yeah, the Chargers defense was pretty tough, and get them a win. It was a hard fought win, but it was an important win, and it gets them the playoffs at 7-9. But you throw out those records, and this is one of the few teams in the AFC that has defeated the Jets in playoff games. So, there's a possibility here of this team being competitive against the Jets this coming weekend. And if you can beat the Jets, you can beat anyone.
Yep. Next game up, we have Detroit hosting Washington. Detroit definitely needed to win this game. If they lost it, they needed some help, and we'll go through that a little bit later. But with all that being said and done, Detroit ended up losing this game 21-31 over Washington. Dean.
Yeah, Washington, played a solid game as it usually does. Murray was very good on the passing side, completing 76% of his passes for 361 yards. Had some big plays. Washington had 100 yards of rushing, which generally they do, and played some pretty good defense, enough to hold Detroit to 21 points and win the game. So it was important when they get some momentum going into the playoffs. And I believe they're going to be playing home against the 49ers coming week.
Yeah. Mitch.
Yeah, this is another one of the 7-on-7 drills. When you look at the quarterback stats, and they are both quarterbacks over 304, almost similar, almost the exact same as Atlanta, New England, except Trubisky only found the end zone once, where Murray was able to find the end zone 3 times out there. But yeah, I guess it really did come down to timely turnovers for Washington, as well as a pretty solid return game, getting some pretty solid field position out there to get some scores. But Washington, kind of rebounded there to finish strong last week of the season. And Detroit, congratulations, you completed the 4-game December slide, but you made the playoffs. So congratulations.
Okay. Next game, we have San Francisco hosting the New York Giants. I'm thinking Charlie might have taken it a little bit easy or going with the vanilla plan, as the Giants took this game 35-12. Mitch.
Yeah, I think similar to the game I had. This game really meant nothing as far as the standings went for San Francisco. They knew they were going to be the 3rd seed, and so I think he probably, he started Purdy over Burrow, so I think that kind of tells you where his head was at in this game. So New York was able to pull out the win and lose a spot in the draft seeding, but hey, they got to win. So there you go.
All right, Dean.
Well, the Giants knew they weren't making the playoffs, so this was kind of like their playoff game, and they played hard and they played to win, and they did just that, and they kind of repeat of last season when they actually needed that game to get in the playoffs. At the end of last season, the Giants beat the 49ers, and this season they did it again.
Okay. Next game up, we have Seattle hosting New Orleans for the season finale. New Orleans was already on track for a playoff spot, and for them, win and you're in. If not, that was it. The game went into overtime. It was one of the 2 games that we broadcasted or broadcast with our little podcast. And this one went into overtime with Seattle winning this one 37-31. Dean.
Yeah, this is a game where you remember that Wilson rode the card into the locker room on an injury, and you joked about him going into the Jello protocol, and apparently it was like a bruised shoulder or something. I don't know if that was his throwing arm or his non-throwing arm.
Mm.
Jalen Hurts came in and put up some good numbers and completed 365 yards of passing, and although 53% completions, he threw the ball a lot and got some key completions, including the play that sent the game into overtime, and then the big pass that set up the score, the game-winning drive in overtime. Numbers look great, except for those 2 interceptions. They did throw 3 touchdown passes.
Yep.
But we did this game. We covered it on the live broadcast. It was a pretty exciting game, and I think I'm not sure you knew what to think at the end of that game as it went into overtime, and then your team managed to put together the key drive in overtime.
Yeah, it was a lot that I was pretty much saying, oh, God, not again, not another one. So, Mitch, what do you got?
Yeah, that Jalen Hurts it had a phenomenal game. 2 plays in or a couple of drive in, he had to come into the game, and he played a lot like Josh Allen. Made huge plays, made them with his legs, made them with his arm. Of course, he had some bonehead mistakes in the middle of that. But overall, my goodness, 400 combined passing and rushing yards combined for 4 touchdowns. I mean, heck, this guy probably should be a starter in this league. So anyway, thrilling game, fun game, and I was just glad that you have a lifetime supply of Tylenol to help you after these games right now.
Yeah, the last 2 games has just been quite a bit, been a lot. So overall, I would say that the second half of the season, after doing some revamping, definitely it looked a lot better compared to the first half of the season. So hopefully we can use this as a springboard going into the next season. Last game that we have for this week in the regular season, we have Chicago hosting Anaheim with Suge's first season in the league under his belt. And they came up, they put up a good fight, but came up just a bit short to Chicago, losing this one 25-28. Mitch.
All right, so we got to, first thing we have to do is see if we got the over under correct as far as the number of completions by Anaheim. And they did get double-digit completions this week. I think they were able to just squeak by last week, and they did almost got 20 completions this week. So that was good to see. Much closer game than anticipated. I think a lot of folks thought this was going to be a blowout with Chicago winning, but who knows? Chicago may have taken the foot off the gas since they didn't have a lot to play for as far as playoff seedings and all that go. But definitely was nice to see Anaheim get a little bit more balance in their offense, and I think that's what kept them in the game. Quite honestly, kept them within striking distance. Of course, you look at one thing I think Anaheim needs to work on before next season: special teams. I mean, they gave up 220 yards in kick returns to Chicago. Chicago averaged 44 yards a return. Pretty much every time Chicago got a kickoff, it was taking it to midfield. So that's put a lot of pressure on your defense.
Mm-hmm.
So might need to take a look at which play and formation they're using on those kickoffs. But other than that, good luck to them in the offseason.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, that might have made the difference because this was a close game and the Rams played them tough on, fairly tough in defense as much as you can, playing against Chicago's powerful offense. And they played pretty well on offense. And Malik Willis is turning out to be a good starting quarterback for the Rams and might be their starting quarterback going forward. And so I think we can expect to see the Rams to be much more competitive in Shuggy's second season as the head coach here and general manager. So I think it's going to be an interesting race next year in the NFC West. I'm not saying that the Rams are going to compete for the division title, but they're going to win more games. They're going to take that step. We're seeing Seattle is going to be stronger based on the second half of this season. 49ers made the playoffs. Chicago won the division, and the Saints are in the market for new coaches, we recently found out. So I don't know if there's anyone on the waiting list or anyone taking the team, but that remains to be seen, I guess.
Yep. So, and sad that we're losing our coach out there, but wish him the best going forward. And you never know, he may come back around again at a later date. So thanks.
Well, hey, with that said, with New Orleans leaving, I am taking nominations on who should be my favorite NFC team to root for each week, like I do, with Minnesota on the AFC side. So please send your nominations to the PNFLnews.com, and I'll take them all under advisement.
Your nomination is obvious. You should be rooting for the PNFL team that's nearby where you are.
Yeah.
Just kind of de facto the home team, other than, of course, your Kansas City Chiefs.
That's right. Yeah, maybe I need to change that. Maybe I need to change mine next year or something. Maybe I need to change mine to go down to the Astrodome like I thought about doing last year. I don't know.
Okay. All right, so moving into our middle segment here, we're going through the final standings for this season, for the 2043 season, and then we'll look at the brackets going into the wild card games coming up. So from the AFC side, obviously we have New York uh, taking the AFC with a 14-2 record in the East, followed by Indy and then New England, both with a 6-10 record, and Jacksonville with a 5-11. Over in the AFC West, we have Mitch and Kansas City sitting atop at 11-5, followed by Minnesota at 9-7, LA at 7-9, with Vegas and Pittsburgh both sitting at 6-10. With all that information being dumped at you, we have the Jets with the number 1 seed, Kansas City with the number 2 seed, Minnesota with the number 3 seed, and LA with the number 4 seed. Over on the NFC side, we have Washington sitting atop at 13-3 in the NFC East, followed by Detroit at 8-8, New York at 6-11, and 6-10, and Atlanta at 5-11. Over on the West, we have Chicago sitting at 13-3 as well, with San Francisco sitting at 9-7, New Orleans at 8-8, Seattle 7-9, and Anaheim at 5-11. So, with all that being said,
Could you repeat that one more time, Mark? I think I missed. What was the AFC East again? I'm joking.
uh-huh. So, going into the playoffs, you have Chicago and the do what now?
Checking New England.
Yeah, yeah, I know he's picking on me.
Yeah.
We have
So you got Jacksonville this week. Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
I'm picking Jacksonville and
Okay.
to win, and then Pittsburgh to win over on the
Yeah.
AFC.
And I think you said your Super Bowl prediction was Jacksonville and Anaheim before the show started.
Yep, pretty much, pretty much.
Super Bowl or some other bowl.
Uh,
That was it.
yeah, that's true. That is the Sacco Bowl, so you never know.
Oh.
So for the number on the NFC side, for the number 1 seed, you have Chicago uh, taking on Detroit as number 4 seed, and then you have Washington taking on Frisco on that side. So, um,
Yeah.
so looking at the final standings, kind of get your guys' take on this, get your opinion on the final standings, and we will start with Dean.
Yeah, I think you've seen the AFC East kind of what we expected, and it's almost like a three-way tie for second place, other than Jacksonville was behind by just one game. But, the Jets dominated the division and dominated the league. They had the finish of the best record with 14 wins and 2 losses. The AFC West, Kansas City ended up in the lead. Minnesota got one of those wild card spots. Well, then again, the Chargers did Los Angeles with a 7-9 record, finishing on top of that group of teams that were 6-9 going into the last week. I still say watch out for Las Vegas next season. They're 6-10, but there were a lot of close losses among that 10. They could have easily been in that race too and ended up just a game out of it. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Raiders actually get into postseason next season with maybe 8 or 9 or even 10 wins possibly. A lot of close losses there. Pittsburgh, they're kind of up and down. We'll see what happens with them. In the NFC East, of course, Washington won the division again, run by one of our team owners that I think is probably, let's just say, arguably one of the best general managers, and is a very good coach as well, and managed to win 13 games. And Detroit was 8-4 and did that, that 0-4 thing in the last 4 weeks, but still got in with an 8-8 record. And, rounding out the bottom of the division with 5 or 6 losses are the Giants and Falcons. Of course, in the NFC West, Chicago won again, and the 49ers won a wild card spot. The Saints missed by a game. Seattle had a lot of close losses. Don't be surprised to see Seattle be much more competitive next season with a little bit stronger start than starting at 0-6. And Shaggy coaching his first season in the PNFL, went 5-11, but his team has, had a close game against the Cardinals, and his team has shown some promise in some of these weeks. And don't count them out next season either. It's going to be an interesting season next season.
All right, Mitch.
Yeah, a lot of interesting storylines this year across the league. Whether you're talking about that last game where you had gosh, around a third of the league, I think, still mathematically in contention for the final spot in each conference. So that was pretty cool out there. Obviously, personally, it was nice to get back into the playoffs after a 1 year vacation from that. So I was glad to get back in there. But when you look at these divisions, AFC West. Oh my gosh, it is. Oh man, I mean, it is. You gotta be ready every single week to play in the AFC West. And I think that the NFC West is going to be become more and more like that next season, especially if you can keep Seattle on the trajectory that you're on. And if Shuggy is as good as Dean keeps saying, then the NFC West should turn into another kind of a grinder. At least for 3 or 4 of those teams out there, Chicago will continue to be probably the top dog, but there should be a lot more competition for Chicago. I think going forward. So it'll be interesting to see. It all be. I think Indianapolis has an opportunity in the AFC East to separate themselves. They were right there. I mean, they could, if they could have won those last 2 games, they would have taken in, and they played much better the second half of the season. Fortunately, they started out in a 2-6 hole, and they just couldn't get their way out of it. NFC East, ooh man, I don't know who's going to step up and be kind of that second fiddle to Jerry. Yeah, they kind of rotate. The year before, 2 years ago it was Dean. I think it was second place, and then last year it was New York. This year it's Detroit. So one of those teams is going to step up. Just not sure who it's going to be yet, but I think the off season will tell us what that's going to look like. But it was a fun season. Lots of engagement, lots of participation. Um, I think as long as we do that and keep it fun, and I think we're going to continue to have competitive games and competitive teams out there.
Yep, I definitely agree. Um, you know, I agree with both of you guys on the teams that are still, the flag bearers and the up and coming teams. I do believe that the AFC West, that's just going to be, like you said, that's the slobber knocker division over there. You guys just fight it out all the time, and it can shuffle around in any moment. The NFC West.
It builds character, Mark. It builds
Oh,
character
oh yeah.
in
Oh
the
yeah.
NFC West.
And the NFC West, I think the NFC West may end up. We'll see what happens. The NFC West may end up turning, mimicking the AFC West. But also too the East, like you said, 1 year Atlanta was up, right behind Washington, and then one after that was New York, and then this time it's Detroit. So there's a lot of shuffling going on in that division as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens during the offseason, how we go into the next season. But we're getting.
Which team do you think is going to be more likely to pose any threat to Washington?
Right now,
Chicago.
No, I mean,
no, he's talking about within the division.
Oh,
You know what? It's too early to tell. It's way too early to
okay.
tell because, 2 seasons ago, you were in the finals. This time you're not. Last season it was New York. This time it's not. This season is Detroit. So I don't know. There's a lot of flux going on in there. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know who, but I don't know which team it'll be. But whichever team figures out how to be consistently average or better at defense will give Washington a run. Because offensively, most of the time, at least New York and Atlanta, or at least solid or better, offensively and able to do some things. But yeah, it's the
Yeah,
defense
that's
that's
the key.
killing the division.
Playing defense. You look at those two teams gave up over 400 points on the season, which only a handful of teams gave up over 400. I'm seeing, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 teams overall that gave up more than 400 points on defense. So 2 of them in the NFC East. So
Yeah, whoever figures that out will be the the contender to be consistent against Jerry. Otherwise, Jerry's going to continue to find a way to win that division.
Yeah. All right. So as we made our little diagnosis or commentary on that, as you guys see, there's our playoff bracket. As you have the number 1 seeds, each division is the Jets, AFC, Chicago on the NFC side. And then number 2 seed, you have Kansas City on the AFC side, Washington on the NFC side. So we're going to go ahead and pivot over and round out the other 4, 3 and 4 seeds as we go through our wild card selection and then wrap it up. So as we are going into this, before we go into that portion, the final tally for the regular season for our predictor and lead pipe locks. For the regular season, congratulations, Mitch. You had 90,
Yes.
94, and 50. For second place was myself at 81 and 63. And Dean had 69 and 75, just a bit short this season. So as we wrap that up, lead pipe blocks overall, I ended up taking that one with 11 and 5 record. Mitch had a 9 and 7 record, and Dean had 6 and 10, as you guys see up there. So
hey, bowl eligible. I got bowl eligible.
There you go. You're bowl eligible. So it will reset it again next year, obviously. And it's a little fun thing that we kind of do amongst ourselves and those that are interested to see how our predictions go. As we joke throughout the season, I had the lead pipe lock blessing and Dean had the lead pipe lock curse. So
yeah, 6 and 10 is bowl eligible. It's not the bowl that you want to be in.
there you go.
Well, no, you got to be at least 500. So
yeah,
that's
you got to
why
be 5.
I was bowl eligible. So
there you go.
We're talking about a different kind of bowl when you're liquid lock is.
yeah, that's right.
All right. So as we go into the wild card weekend games, the first one that we have as the New York Jets taking on or hosting LA. Rich Sporting Books is giving the Jets 13.5. We are going to start this off with Dean.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is not so fast. I think I'm just feeling the vibe that we're going to see an upset here. The Chargers got into the playoffs and maybe may not have expected that. I think they're going to make the most of their opportunity. Steve's going to put together a monster game plan on both sides of the ball, and I'm not saying that that Thomas isn't going to. He is, but Steve is just going to outcoach him and pull off the upset in this game. Maybe get a little luck along the way, and it's going to be a very close game that the Jets are going to fall a couple points short.
Okay. Mitch.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a tighter game than the spread right now, and I think LA is capable of winning the game. I don't think they will. I think New York is going to. Um, I think they're going to be ready, and they're going to be fired up and ready to go on all cylinders. So I think that New York will win the game, but I think it's going to be single digits. I don't think it's going to be 13 and a half.
All right. I got to concur with you on that one. I don't think it's going to be a 13.5 point spread. I think it could be as little as a 3 point game. Simple field goal or a touchdown. That's going to be the difference. But I'm going with the Jets on this one. Next game, we have Washington hosting San Francisco. They are giving San Francisco 9.5. Mitch.
Ooh, 9.5. Ay. It's well. You know what? If there's going to be an upset and not, on this, I think it could be this game. Um, I think the 49ers are going to be tough. Do I want to go with the 49ers? No, I'm going to go Washington, but it's going to be within the spread. It's going to be within the spread.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, I think what's key to remember in this game, San Francisco plays and is involved in probably as many close games, if not more so than any other teams. And as many times as I wanted to bet that Washington would win and cover the spread, they win and don't cover the spread. So that's exactly what I'm going to say will happen here. It's going to be a close, tough game that both teams are going to play very well in. Washington is going to win at home. It's going to be very close, and they will not cover that spread, but they will advance.
Okay. I am going to, just like Dean did in the previous game, I'm going to call for an upset this week. I think out of the teams that are projected to win, I think Washington could be the one that's toppled. Sorry. And I think Charlie could be the one to do it. So I think he's going to put together a good game plan, and he is going to pull off the upset against Washington. And I'm pushing all of my chips in on this one and going with San Francisco on this game for the upset this week. Next game we have Kansas City, and that is my lead pipe lock. Yep.
Okay.
I didn't know we were doing those. You acted like we were done for the season.
Oh, heck no. We got a whole round two. This is the playoff edition.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we have Kansas City hosting Mitch's cheerleading, his team he loves to cheer for, Minnesota. They are giving Kansas City 7.5 on this one. Dean.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if Mitch is on that Purple Rain train this coming week. Last week I jumped on that train and put a lead lock on it. Turned out to be a lead pipe curse. I'm not going to make that mistake again. And I'm going to put a vote of confidence in for the Chiefs to win at home. And they're not only going to win at home, but yes, I'm going to make that. Try to get on the winning side of things here in the postseason edition. Kansas City wins, and that is a lead pipe lock.
Oh, Mitch, what are you going to do about this? Is it a blessing or a curse? What do you got for your team this week?
Well, when you get that kind of endorsement, that puts a lot of pressure on a guy. So, well, as always, it's going to be a hard-fought battle. I mean, we split the regular season. I hate playing divisional teams in the wild card round, having to play a third game against the team, before the championship. But it is what it is, right? Another reason we need expansion out there for the league. But no, it's going to be good. It's going to be strong. Yeah, of course, I've got to predict a Kansas City win, but I know it's not going to be easy. So we'll see how it goes.
All right.
Games like the Chiefs, you're going to win big. You're going to win by a lot.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect setting.
For me,
I think Taylor Swift's going to be there.
there you go.
And just the help of the Swifties. Can't go wrong
That's
with that.
right. That's right.
For me, it's I've gone for both of these teams in the past, and I do think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a much closer than even closer than the 7.5. But I'm going to give the edge to Kansas City. It's a home game for them, so they have the home cooking working in their favor. I think Mitch is really going to buckle down on it as far as doing his planning and strategizing. And I do believe that Kansas City is going to take this opening wild card round. Last game for the wild cards, we have Chicago hosting Detroit. They are giving Chicago a 17.5 point spread. I know that we've mentioned in the past that Detroit has backed into the playoffs because they lost their game and they needed some help, and they got some help. So I guess going forward, the question is, what are they going to do this week? Starting with Mitch.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where I don't even know if the wild card team even really wanted to be in the playoffs, to be honest with you. But they are. Since I have not done a lead pipe lock yet, I will put my lead pipe lock on this one, which feels a little bit like cheating, but I'm going to take Chicago to win this game, and you can put my lead pipe lock on it.
All right. Dean.
Well, Detroit did get in the playoffs. So you could say they backed in. They lost the last 4 games. They still managed to get it. But those records don't matter. And Detroit has nothing to lose here. They're gonna take some chances, do some interesting things, and they're gonna play to win. Are they gonna pull off an upset? Well, I'm not going quite that far. Chicago went on very close, but doesn't cover the spread.
Okay. Chicago.
Yeah.
Detroit limped into this, and I'm still waiting on that gift basket from Detroit because New Orleans had to lose that game for them to get in, and we did our job, as Mitch so nicely put it during the broadcast. So, I'm
Mail.
do I now?
I've heard the check is in the mail.
Yeah, check is in the mail. I checked the mail today. There's nothing there. So so we're still waiting on that. So, but I'm going with Chicago this week. I think that like I said, Detroit limped into this and backed into it, and they're gonna back right. They backed right into the living room, and come back through the front door, and they're gonna go right out the back door. So, I hate to say it.
And James will be in Cancun with you guys after this game. So
Yeah,
it's all good.
pretty much. So, all right, guys. So we are coming to wrap this one up. This is kind of a short one compared to our normal shows, but obviously we have less games out there. Again, I will, unless Mitch wants to take this over, definitely get your information in as far as your awards. You want to go ahead and add a little bit more to that, Mitch?
We'll keep the polls up there until the end of the week. So go out and put your votes in. It's in the trash talk section of our forum.
All right. So as we come to wrap this up, we're going to go around the table one more time. Dean, what do you have for us?
Well, good luck to the playoff participants in this week. And there's 8 teams in now, and all of them hope to end up in the Super Bowl and win it. But ultimately, 4 teams will advance this week, so good luck to all of you.
All right. Mitch, what do you got before you take us home?
No, it should be a fun week. Look forward to it. If not sure when we'll get this the podcast out, but if teams want to have their game broadcast live, let Mark know. I'm sure that we can find an opportunity to to do that. But
Oh yeah,
that's
before
good.
before you call it, what I was going to do is I'll reach out to them. I also gotta let the commissioner or the assistant commissioner know. And so the playoff participants be on the lookout for an email to get out to you guys to see which one of you guys want to have your games put up there. I don't know if we can do all four, but maybe we can do two of them. I don't know, but I'll send the flyer. I'll send the emails out to each one of you guys and individuals. So, and hopefully we will see who wants to have their game on the big stage. So, all right, Mitch, back at you. Go ahead and bring us home.
Oh, you messed up my rhythm. Now I got to start back over. All right, no, just kidding. No, all right. Well, hey, I think after that, Mark, I think the only thing left now to do is let's get it.